Very good day to IPDocs team and everyone present today. Today I'm going to be presenting on my paper titled User Experience Factors that Influence Users' Satisfaction of Using Digital Library. I'm the sole main author and my following authors are Dr. Asima, Dr. Norazin, Dr. Shah and Dr. Nurziha. This presentation will detail the following outline, which includes the introduction, the related works, the results and discussion, and finally the conclusion. Let's look at the introduction. Over the course of years, technology has bloomed. We have smartphones now where everything is on the go for us and everything is accessible through just a click away. For example, we can go from ordering food to simply booking a hotel way before even we are planning to stay. When we talk about the difference of a digital library and a traditional library, a digital library is basically a digital content that could be anything of text, audio, or video, and it is stored in an electronic format. Whereas in a traditional library, everything is hard copy in a sense that this traditional library consists of very important and valuable materials that can go dating back to the 1800s. And it's very important that we look into changing this traditional library to to a digital library. One of the main reasons is to preserve our history and to take precautions in case if anything goes wrong to the traditional library in case of a fire, we will have all this history preserved in a digital format. There are many advantages of a digital library. The first one is all-day access. All-day access provides the user 24-hour access to the digital library. For example, if comparing with a traditional library, the user will have a time limit whereby the user is only able to access the library from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Whereas in a digital library, it's 24 hours and there's no restrictions. Next, we look at the ease of retrieval. When we compare the ease of retrieval of a digital library and traditional library, in a digital library, retrieval, all you have to do is just search in the search bar and the digital library will provide you of all the search results. Whereas in a traditional library, we would have to go through shelves and codes, and this can be very time consuming just to find even one material. A digital library is technically very environmental friendly and it's towards saving the planet as no papers or documents will be required to be printed. Whereas in a traditional library, we will require to print specific materials if we are going to plan on taking those materials home and not just accessing it inside the library itself. Last but not least is access to materials. Some material access would not be available outside of a traditional library due to it being stored locally in their local intra network. Unlike a digital library whereby we are able to access any material from any part of the country, any part of the world. When we talk about user experience basically talks on the user's thoughts, feelings, and perception of interaction between the user and the product. For an example, when a user uses Facebook, how the user feels when the user uses Facebook, whether he enjoys it, he doesn't enjoy it, what's his perception of Facebook, is it a good application, is it not a good application, and what are his thoughts while using Facebook. All these fall under the user experience category. User experience is good because of the few advantages that we are going to discuss. One of it is it gives us a positive feedback. So when we have user experience, the user provides a feedback towards the developer, and this, of course, can implement. The developer will then be able to implement changes to suit the user's needs, and this will definitely increase the good name of a specific organization which has developed the application, for example. Next, when we have user experience, the system develops more users because when we get user experience and we are able to fix the system or a software to follow the needs and the requirements of the users, of course more users will pass the word around, and this will definitely bring other users to come in and use the same system. Therefore, this will push the system to higher ranks, whereby they will be having more user counts compared to other systems or other softwares. Last but not least, it would be less cost to the organization because they would not have to make much changes going forward in the future, as they have already started implementing changes due to user experience, hence they can save this money in the near future. Let's move on to the literature review. First, we will discuss on digital library. As we can see here, we have two definitions of digital library by the Digital Library Federation and TOMS. Digital Library Federation states that an organized digital library is an organization that provides resources to interpret, preserve, distribute, and ensure the perseverance over time of collections of digital works to make them economically and readily available for use by a defined community or set of communities. Whereas TOMS defines that digital libraries are in most ways like a physical library, it is just that users do not have to search through shelves of books to locate the material of their interest. Simply, we can say that digital libraries are basically an outcome of the advancement of technology and the digitalization of all the written material over time. Digital libraries are also originally there to fulfill the user's information needs, though it can also serve as a source of entertainment and infotainment in some instances. Let's take a look at some examples of online library. The online training system, which is also known as the OTS. The OTS was built to bloom the Generation Z who are people that were born in the digital era. This was built in order to ensure that the Generation Z has the ability to think with a transdisciplinary approach. And it provides the knowledge related to data literacy, communication, and the use of information and communication technology, or rather we can say as ICT. Transdisciplinary approach simply means on real-life situations and real-life approaches. Now, this OTS eventually advanced and progressed according to the needs of the students and researchers, and it took the shape to be known as Personalized Online Training System, which is also known as POTS. POTS is a great and efficient skill for these Generation Z, or rather the 21st century people, because it gives the user the opportunity to search, analyze, interpret, and communicate information on the POTS. The digital library's most common usage is in the higher education, where students use digital libraries daily. This is because higher education students are, of course, using digital library to complete their assignments, projects, or theses. Sometimes some higher education students even research on their interests. In this slide, we discuss about user experience. Based on the International Organization for Standardization, they define UX as an extent to which a product can be used by specified users to achieve specific goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. In other terms, UX is basically the art of meeting the exact needs of the customer. Norman and Nielsen says that for any company, organization, or business model to improve or enhance its UX, it needs to make sure that its product or service is easily accessible. In other words, we can say that the success of any company selling a product or a service depends greatly on how well it understands and manages its UX. The more the company focuses on its UX, the more accurately and effectively it meets the needs of its customers, which leads to the success of that brand or the business. UX may also be simply referred to as the experience or emotions of a user as they use a service or a product, which has been defined by Boole. Also, we can say that UI, user interface, as friendly, convenient, and attractive, is better to be used as it attracts the customer and makes it easy for users to access the product, service, or application of that brand or business. UX evaluation is a result of using matrices to measure, compare, and track the UX of a product or system. Matrices are a set of quantitative data points and are critical in ensuring the decision of UX design. Based on ARAS, Aras discusses that the concept of user experience falls into three categories, which are subjectivity, contributing agents, and experience. However, without knowing this, we always assume that user experience falls between two things, which is the object, which is the artifact, and the user. However, there is a third contributing agent, which is the subjectivity. Subjectivity basically is different based on each individual. The subjectivity is always subjective to the own user experience, emotion, and reactions as a result of the interaction with an artifact. For example, if there's two users, users A and user B, both of them are interacting with Facebook. User A likes Facebook because user A likes the user interface, the colors, the applications that Facebook has, the advertisements, the chatting abilities, and etc. etc. Whereas user B might not like Facebook so much because user B might not like the user interface or the homepage and how things are being displayed, how the chat box pops up, and etc. etc. There are a few factors that affect user experience in a digital library. Let's discuss these factors, starting with attractiveness. Attractiveness basically means the measuring of the graphics, the layout, the color, theme, user friendliness of the UI of the digital library. So basically, in other words, we can say that a better looking layout or whatsoever, or better looking digital library generally results in happier users. But at the same time, the developers should always remember not to overdo things, because when you overdo it, it tends to turn out bad sometimes. When we talk about perspicuity, perspicuity is basically the measurement of the user familiarity, the ability to understand and adapt quickly to the UI, and the simplicity of the functions of a digital library. In easier terms, it means how easy it is to learn or how operable it is, the digital library. For example, while we are doing work on the digital library and we want to open something, and it would be easier if the thing just opens on the same page rather than it opening in a different tab, and then you tend to have multiple tabs that you have to maneuver around. The next factor is novelty. Novelty measures the uniqueness, creativity, and innovation of the UI and functions in digital library and how well it can capture the user's attention. Basically, novelty also means the quality of the digital library. Basically, the digital library needs to be catchy, so it attracts more users, and it also needs to be elegant and not dull. Moving on, we have stimulation. Stimulation is the measurement of the user excitement, feelings, and quality towards the digital library. Stimulation is basically the excitement of the user. It's a better digital library stimulates user excitement and interest to further continue using the product. For example, there are many social media applications out there. So a user has opportunities to choose between all of these. If Facebook has a higher stimulation factor, hence more users would tend to use Facebook compared to other social medias. The next factor is dependability. Dependability is measuring the user's trust of digital library, whether the library is reliable, supportive, and secure. For example, materials which user downloads, how well and how complete it is. Or another example is payment. Now, when a user makes a payment on the website, the user needs to feel in control. So when the user makes a payment, they need to trust that this application doesn't crash, it's well managed, and their payment information will be secure. Last but not least is efficiency. Efficiency is a measurement of the speed, the response rate, and the UI organization of the digital library. In other terms, efficiency basically means no lags, a well-structured digital library. Also, if there are more things on the digital library, if the page has to load more things, it takes a longer time for the page to fully load, hence leaving a user unsatisfied. When we talk about user satisfaction, We are talking about the overall effective evaluation by an end user of their experience with a computer or information system, and this is generally measured with a Likert scale. User satisfaction is also known as an overall evaluation from user towards the product, service, or application. And user satisfaction is determined by both the user's expectation versus the user's perception, which also results in users' loyalty. Now, in this diagram below, we see it's a model that has been quoted by Badran and Al-Haddad. And in this model, Badran and Al-Haddad has done in their study is that they have used this model to investigate the impact of user experience based on these factors, which are utility, usability, aesthetics, identification, and value, on the customer satisfaction of smartphones in Jordan. So we can see that our independent variables in this model are the factors of the user experience, whereas the dependent variable is the customer satisfaction. They have also included a demographic factor, which is the moderating variable, which is the gender, age, years of experience, and the education. Now, user satisfaction is also extremely important because eventually, when there's a good user satisfaction, the user will eventually keep spreading the word around regarding a certain product to their friend, and it goes on. And also, this increases the user loyalty towards the product, as the user will keep coming back to use the product more and more. In the below model, which is the Dillon and McLean Information System Success Model, which was discussed in a paper, this was discussed on the factors that impact the user satisfaction in smart or digital government initiatives in the UAE. In this paper, it was also found that user satisfaction led to better performance impact as employees were able to perform tasks more efficiently and make better decisions. In this model, we see that we have three hypotheses, which is H1, H2, and H3, and we can see that service quality and user satisfaction greatly impacts performance impact, whereas service quality also does impact user satisfaction. In this paper, the results reveal that the information quality, system quality, and service quality have all positive effects on user satisfaction. Though there are many factors that we discuss, 6 of them, however, in this study we only use 5 factors, which is attractiveness, efficiency, dependability, stimulation, and novelty. In order to create our proposed model, we have hypotheses where to be tested. These hypotheses suggest that there is a significant impact of the factor on the user satisfaction. As we can see from the proposed model, all 5 factors significantly impact user satisfaction. In conclusion, this study aimed to identify the factors that influence user satisfaction of using digital library, whereby the factors were identified and a research model was proposed with hypotheses. The result of it was that, based on previous literature reviews and based on the research model of the hypothesis, it has been proven that user satisfaction is in fact affected by the factors that we have discussed. The factors that we discussed were attractiveness, efficiency, dependability, stimulation, and novelty. Thank you.